All right, I am speeding, Gabriel. How you doing? You good?
I am okay.
Nice.
Bro, we're back.
We're back. Movie X podcast is back.
How long has
I
it
have
been?
Sweat on my nipples.
Nice.
It's showing through my shirt.
I
am not lactating.
It's
sweat
I can't
on my
tell.
nipples.
It must be a contrast
I
thing
think
on camera.
well, on camera when we tested the camera, you could see it. Maybe you can't see it now.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know.
So if you see sweat, listen. I'm human. I sweat.
Colin's trying to tell us he's breastfeeding right now.
No, I'm not lactating. It kind of looked like I was.
That's why we've been out of the podcast for a while. I mean, Colin are with child right now.
I got pregnant. Yeah.
Dude, it's okay. We're sitting here with these powerful. These lights must be blowing out our thighs right now. This is going.
Yeah,
really well.
yeah. I mean, my thighs aren't quite as. They're not at their meatiest right now.
As a note, this is summertime, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
summertime.
Thighs are out. I think men are showing thigh again. We're in a time where men are showing thigh again. For a while, it was more fashionable to wear longer shorts for men. Men are wearing shorter shorts again.
Possibly because of the movie we're going to talk about today.
Possibly because of the movie. I argue it's because of professional basketball. Because professional basketball players started wearing shorter shorts again, and I think people were like, "Oh, this is cool."
I'm gonna have to see that. I haven't noticed that.
It's just a thing. Like longer basketball shorts used to be a thing. Because of the Michigan basketball team, they started wearing these really long shorts, and everyone thought it was super cool, so they did that. And then now I've noticed basketball players are back to wearing shorter, kind of mid-length shorts. And so shorter shorts are back for men.
Clap in,
baby.
Let's do it.
All right, 3, 2. Nice.
All right, so Movie Addicts is doing their best to get in and get out.
Get in, get out. We're going to start we're doing faster episodes, quicker episodes.
Yeah, we've noticed that you guys, your views have been suffering, and we're done blaming you for it. We think it's our fault.
Yeah, something like that.
We think
something
it's our
like
fault.
That, yeah. Well, we're just trying to make the show a little better, right? So what are we talking about today, Gabe? What movie are we talking about?
Today we're talking about Barbie.
And Barbie, this is the logline for Barbie here. Barbie suffers a crisis that leads her to question her world and her existence. Sort of a broad logline. Directed by Greta Gerwig.
Nice.
Great director. Written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. Starring Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, Issa Rae. Who else do we have there? Kate McKinnon, Alexandra Shipp, Emma Mackey, Harry Neff.
Simu
Liu, Sharon Rooney.
Noteworthy. I want noteworthy. There's tons of
Dua Lipa's
this
pops
cast
up in
is
this
stacked,
thing.
but
Emerald Fennell's in it. Listen, we can't even get into John Cena pops up.
I forget John Cena.
Yeah, I mean, listen. So
did you say Michael Cera?
Michael Cera. I did not say Michael Cera. Michael Cera's in this thing.
Yeah. And Will Ferrell.
Yeah. So this is a Warner Brothers flick.
Yeah. Any
and
recognizable producers on this project?
That's a great question. We gotta rip that right now.
Unless Greta and Noah were producers on it too, or something.
I mean, okay, so producer-wise, oh my god, this cast is so insane. Notable producers: Tom Ackerley, Robbie Brenner, David Heyman, who's a big producer. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, David Heyman. Margot Robbie's also credited as a producer, which makes sense.
Yeah,
she's
for sure.
A star. So,
yep.
David Heyman, I believe, is involved in Harry Potter. Yeah. So David Heyman was a huge producer
for Warner Brothers.
For Warner Brothers, sort of was the glue producer-wise for the Harry Potter franchise.
Huh.
Yeah. So he's worked with Tarantino. He's worked with Noah Baumbach. He's worked with Alfonso Cuarón. Like, he's a big producer.
This guy's got experience.
A lot of experience. And very, very accomplished.
Cool.
Consistently makes great stuff. So,
okay.
David Heyman is probably the most notable producer, like actual producer on this. So, yeah, this thing's killing at the box office.
Yeah? Do we have budget versus box office sales?
Budget, I don't have right now. Give me 2 seconds for the estimated. But it's almost it's approaching 800 million globally.
Oh my
box
goodness.
office.
It's barely been out for 2 weeks. It's barely been out for 2 weeks.
Which is nuts. And so you saw that thing the other day. The guy was saying, "Oh, Mattel is now going to do a ton of other movies as a result of this."
I really wonder if that was true or if they were just being silly. But part of me feels like there have been huge studios.
Yeah.
I don't want to get wrapped up in that
Anyway,
conversation.
$100 million budget.
What?
Yeah, so
that's kind of cheap.
Yeah, I think that's again, it's one of these IMDb estimated budgets. I think that's really low, and I think if that's excluding.
Does that include marketing or no?
No way.
Yeah,
this marketing budget is at least. It's possible that this is a situation where the marketing budget is like almost double the budget.
I just feel like,
which normally it would be just equal to the budget.
You know what's
production
funny?
budget.
I don't. Yes, marketing double the budget if they have the money for it, which they do, but it's not a film that would need it. You know, like the Barbie film markets itself, in my opinion.
No, but they marketed the shit out of it.
Oh, they did. They absolutely did. But I guess what I'm getting at is there's some films where I feel like that marketing is translating into. I guess that's a big question. Is the marketing translating into box office sales, or were they going to kill in the box office regardless?
I don't think they were going to kill in the box office regardless. I think it would have done well regardless, but they knew that in order to kill at the box office, you had to get a really great director, Greta Gerwig. You had to get really good writers, Noah Baumbach, Greta Gerwig. You had to get a great producer like David Heyman. You had to attach stars, right?
Yeah.
Like they knew they had to put together the package deal to make this thing a smash.
Especially because it's live action. Like they could have done an animated Lego Movie Part 3 with a different director.
Yes.
Like we don't know what else was pitched to Mattel via Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Assuming the property was optioned by Warner Brothers to begin with. Like this could have been Mattel going to different studios asking for concepts.
Yeah, and Warner Brothers was like, we want it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
The vibration, whatever the frequency is. Yeah, quick ratings. So this is interesting.
Is that
I don't
me or
know.
you?
We're having the buzzing. It doesn't matter. Let's just keep pushing.
We're having the buzzing.
So IMDb rating 6.6 out of 10 for Barbie.
Hold on, that's incorrect.
Oh, that's incorrect?
That's the 97 one. That's the 1997 Barbie. They mislinked it to the wrong.
Oh, okay. Good catch.
I think it's currently 7.5.
Good catch. It's 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Gabe, great. That's why you get paid the big bucks,
That's
buddy.
it, baby. That's it.
Rotten Tomatoes, 89%. Do you think that's mislinked?
I don't, because Rotten Tomatoes didn't come out in 90. Did it come out before 97? I don't think so.
That's interesting. So Barbie has Rotten Tomatoes a tomato meter score of 89%, an audience score of 86%. So I mean, I think those are the big ratings there, right?
Do you want to look up Letterboxd as well?
Letterboxd
is Letterboxd more of the people, or is it? It's really more like independent
film
filmmakers,
nerds,
right?
It's film nerds, in my experience, because I'm on Letterboxd.
It's like a nice in between.
So it has a 4.2 average out of 5 stars.
That's
on Letterboxd,
really good too,
which is very good.
Okay.
So just as for context, because I look at a lot of Letterboxd ratings, high ratings are anything 4 up.
Okay.
On average. Even if your film gets a 3.5 out of 5 on average on Letterboxd, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Or at least people thought it was a good movie.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, this thing's approaching by the end of this weekend. We're probably looking at 800 million for this. Probably maybe more than that because it's at 774 million right now globally. So this thing's big.
On paper, it's a box office smash hit.
And you could say, ratings hit as well, right? Because 7.5, people on IMDb ratings are pretty ruthless, I've found.
Yeah.
And so 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb, that's really good. It's a really good average. And it has 145,000 ratings entered, which is a high number.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially for a movie that's been out for 2 weeks. Nonetheless, so let's talk. I mean, Gabe, is this a cock up or a lock up for you, or a clock up?
I'm gonna give it a solid. I guess I'll give it a clock up.
Okay.
I went in with very high expectations.
That's a soft take, but
I know. Here's the thing. I went in with very high expectations, and I walked out with my expectations not shattered, but certainly surgically dissected.
Okay.
And bit by bit deflated. And I walked out of the film still feeling excited about what I experienced, but ultimately it's a clock up because I recommend you guys to watch it, but I don't recommend you to keep going back to the theater and giving Warner Bros. Your money and blah. Like, there's movies in the last year that I'm like, I'm at the theater the fourth, fifth time if I'm feeling it, or if I want to show another friend.
Yeah.
The Barbie, I got in, I saw it, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's a cock up. I really, really didn't enjoy it. I considered walking out of it, which you guys remember.
Well, let's.
I considered walking out of it, but I was like, if I walk out of this movie, I can't have any opinions on it. Because I really am of the opinion you need to watch the whole thing to have an opinion on it.
I love that.
I think that's fair.
It is.
I think that's all. That's fair.
Colin,
so I stuck it
judge.
out. I finished the movie, and I really didn't like it. It's a cock up for me. So Gabe, let's start with directing. What about the directing makes this a clock up for you?
Okay, so when it comes to clock ups. Also, Colin, can you get the exactly? Clock ups are according to you, soft take, which is fair. It's watered down.
What's an in between take? It's
definitely.
I didn't love it.
In between.
I didn't hate it.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I know when I'm in love with a film.
It's a soft take at a time like this, is what I meant to say.
I know I'm in love with a film when I walk out beaming and I can't stop telling everybody about it.
Yeah, sure.
And I know that that's not quite how I felt.
Yes.
So to tie it back to directing, that means there were some good things I was excited about. You know what's funny? I was going to say there's some good things I was excited about with the directing, and there were some not so good things I was excited about. But you know what? That's not true. The cock-up components of this film, I don't think, are the result of the directing.
Okay.
That's for other categories we can talk about today. Directing, I actually felt was solid. I was really happy with Greta's leadership on the project and the way it showed up on screen. If the project was worth $100 million, I got to tell you, it's worth every bit of that and more. It looks beautiful. Her vision for bringing the iconic Barbie brand to life in live action. I was very excited about that. She had some, I feel, I can't quite describe or pull up like timestamps, but I remember there being like moments of editing and like sequences, the way they were directed, that I was like, I don't think I've seen this on the screen before.
What are you thinking of specifically there?
I wish I could say. Some of it was like what's funny? I was going to say some of it, like even just the design of the world.
Yeah.
The way she chose to bring that to life. Which again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves for like other components, but she was able to make something that is perceivably so plasticky, feel so fun and colorful. It didn't feel alienating. I think Barbie, to some people, they could look at the brand and just be like, this isn't for me. And that's what it is. There's something for everybody in this film, and I think she directed it that way purposefully.
Interesting. So yeah, this thing, I actually sort of hated the directing in this.
Yeah?
And here's what I'll say.
Please do.
I'll preface that with, I'm a fan of Greta Gerwig. I really like Lady Bird, and I really like Little Women.
Okay.
However, neither of those movies is hyper stylized. Both of those movies are very simple and very traditionally directed. Like, there's something about Little Women, for instance, that feels very 80s period drama, directing-wise, to me. And yet it has this levity to it. It has this heart to it. It's really a lovely movie. And the performances are great. And, like, Florence Pugh's amazing. Like, Emma Watson's awesome. Like, Chalamet kind of puts in this like really robust performance, even though he's not a huge character in the movie, he's an important character. Saoirse Ronan's amazing in that movie. I love that movie for its simplicity and for its sort of elegance and taste. Lady Bird has, more of that indie raw kind of feel to it. Nonetheless, a very composed telling of a story, right? This was obviously hyper stylized. I think because Greta Gerwig felt like it had to be. I would push back on the idea that just because it's Barbie, it has to be hyper stylized. It has to be sort of nodding and winking constantly. That's what it felt like in the edits a lot of the time. In the direction of the performances, I felt like it was like constantly winking, and I was like overdosing on the winks. I felt like the movie was so aware of itself. I found it sort of unbearable.
It is probably one of the most campy films of the 2020s, if not the last 10 years.
Explain what you mean by that.
So when I think campy, I think something. Man, I'm gonna struggle to describe this, but I'll do my best. When I think campy, I think of like a self-aware, stylized, over-the-top, dry sense of comedy. I think of it as physical and big, maybe kind of indicative of like stuff of like the past, like early 20th century. I think camp kind of came a little bit out of man, I'm going to be pulling this out of my ass. I think camp was like late 19th century, early 20th century. Somehow involved either with vaudeville or Broadway. But there's something that in this film, it's not a screwball comedy. It's not just like, these are funny ha-ha jokes like Lady Bird, I'm trying to think what else Greta's done that's like pretty damn funny. Because she does a lot of like fun stuff as well. This film was just like...
She's only directed... This is her third movie.
Is it?
Feature,
I thought she's directed 4 or 5 films at this point.
I
could be wrong.
Pretty sure. I think Lady Bird was her debut.
Okay.
Feature directorial debut.
Okie doke. And so...
It feels like she's directed 4 or 5 because I think those two movies, Little Women, like Lady Bird and Little Women back to back, were pretty great, like
substantial
first couple outings,
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like, oh, she's been around for a while, but that's just the impact of like doing a couple really good movies.
Yeah, but
I would say potentially great movies.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off too short. Going back to the comedy and the campiness of it, does that resonate with you at all? What I'm trying to get at?
Yes, yes, but somehow, despite the campiness, the movie feels the need to be self-important.
Break that down. What do you mean by that?
It's and this is more of a when we get into script, I'll talk more about this. Do you
want to shift into script? Off
yeah,
of this?
If we can't. I mean, do you have anything else you want to say about the directing?
No, I like listening to you talk about the directing because I realize that many times, because I like to say as an actor that one day I will direct, and in many ways I do direct things in my mind, but other than like a couple small short films, I really haven't been in the seat, so it's nice to hear you talk about directing not just as like a holistic approach to a film, but like specifically also because Greta Gerwig's a writer-director, and in your case you're a writer-director, so you're seeing what was on the script and how it's translating onto the screen. You know what I'm saying?
It's really interesting because the movie has big flourishes directorially, so big, hyper-stylized, sometimes those moments are set pieces, but hyper-stylized moments. And then in between those, I actually found the directing to be, I would even argue, lazy.
Huh.
Sometimes it felt like they're just getting coverage because there's so many characters. Not only... Some of the scenes have a crazy number of characters, and a lot of those characters are speaking. That's a really challenging thing for a director. And so, like, it's not like... This is not specific to Greta Gerwig. Any director would struggle to cover... in those scenes where all these characters are talking and you actually want to hear everything that they're saying, any director would struggle to capture all of that. If you're not doing like ensemble staging, which like some of it, the staging is ensemble staging, some of it's like very fragmented. And so in some of the scenes, it really feels like Greta's just getting coverage. Just get the shots, get.
Do you think a lot of
and
it?
that's felt so limp. Like that felt so like lame to me.
You don't think it was a choice at any point?
No, it's a choice because it's like a choice you're almost being forced to make, in my opinion. It's so difficult to come up with an interesting way to cover that many speaking characters in one scene. So to me, there's like these awesome, great, fun, stylized moments, right? Like on the beach and when they're kind of in transit and all those things, right? When she's waking up, all this, right? But then in between that, you have to do these dialogue-heavy scenes with a ton of different characters, and it's like, I was like, oh, we're just covering. Okay, scene's over. Let's get to something that's more fun than this. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do. I read in an interview, not an interview, maybe it was a review recently, if not this morning, that a large amount of the film, if not all of Barbie Dreamland, is not CGI'd.
No, it didn't seem that way.
It's all on a soundstage.
Yeah. I could that makes sense.
And so that's why part of me feels like either she's stuck with what she can do within a warehouse, and so she has to do the best she can within that, which you might say is still kind of like there's way more creative things you could do, perhaps. But then it makes me wonder, does part of this film harken back to a little bit of like old school studio films?
Mm-hmm.
And when I say studio, I don't mean just like Warner Brothers, Disney, Fox, 21st Century Fox back in the day. I mean literally when films used to be predominantly made within studios. They wouldn't go to location because it's cheaper to shoot on the lot. And so it makes me wonder if you took that into mind, if she was going for a directing style that harkens to, I don't know, the 30s to the 60s.
I think there's part of that too, because I saw that like she kind of posted a bunch of movies that were big references for her, and a lot of them were classic Hollywood stuff.
Right.
Or what do they call that? Post-classical Hollywood. But classic, it was stuff from 30s, 40s, 50s.
And so it makes me think that like what we consider boring or lazy might just be of a different decade that didn't just have as much cinema history behind it to pull from,
But then my question is, why are you pulling from that to when you're making a film for a modern audience? That's just a question.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a directing choice.
You want to move into the script?
Yeah, let's do it.
What did you think about the script? Is the script kind of making it closer to a lockup for you? Is it making it
the script is actually making it closer to a cock-up for me.
Why?
There's a couple things. When I think of script, I think about character, I think about dialogue, I think about themes, I think about plot. And all of those things had really high highs, and I think all of those things had really low lows too.
And you don't just mean low lows for the characters. You meant like low lows.
I think
in
the
terms
plot
of what it's
was
achieving.
I think when I say low or high, I mean that it didn't. I felt like all of those components were executed at the highest level of craft, thanks to Greta. But either because of the studio or Greta, or just lack of budget or time, or I don't think it's for lack of trying, because clearly a lot of effort went into this film. There's times where just like, I think the writing, like again, I don't like the word lazy, but let's consider that like all scripts need a certain amount of incubation. And there comes a point where it over incubates, and then like the egg doesn't hatch because you left it in the egg for too long under the wrong temperature. But there's parts of the script that were like let out of the oven at the perfect time, and then there were parts of the script that I just think they pulled it out of the oven too early. So
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So for instance, the plot. Again, I think this goes into the campiness. I think this goes into like this plasticky 30s, 50s kind of thing going on, where like, we're just going to get straight to the next plot point, and I think it's going to be okay because the audience doesn't really care because they really just love the stars. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of true, but I don't like that. Like there's parts of the film where like they straight up were just like, and now we got to do this to get this. And I'm just like, I mean, that makes sense. A equals B.
Yeah.
And if we go from A to B, we'll get to C. But I'm just like, I don't know. It just felt kind of two-dimensional at times, plot-wise for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
To piggyback off of that, I really didn't like that Barbie doesn't make any decisions, and I found that highly ironic. And I think I wrote this in my Letterboxd review. There's no way Greta Gerwig, that irony is lost on Greta Gerwig. Like, there's no way the irony of making sort of a modern feminist tale wherein the protagonist doesn't make any real decisions of her own. She's a toy. She gets controlled. Things are decided for her. Blah, 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 right? There's no way that irony is lost on Greta Gerwig.
You don't think she's being intentional about this?
Wait, that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
That's what I mean when the irony is not lost on her.
Okay.
She's being intentional about it, but then, like, why is... I question that as an intention. Like, I question sort of the fundamental underpinning of that. Because even... it's even like attempts. So we know that Barbie is controlled by a corporation. That's something that the script becomes is very clear about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not her existence is not removed from the existence of Mattel, the corporation, right?
Okay.
The other thing that Greta Gerwig tries to play with in this script, and I guess Noah Baumbach too. I also question Noah Baumbach's involvement in the script. I don't understand why Greta Gerwig couldn't have just penned this herself. What about it? Noah Baumbach is like bringing. I know they're married, but what he's bringing to it that she couldn't bring herself, I also question.
Yeah.
The other thing that Greta Gerwig tries to play with in this script is Barbie Ferreira's character, who works at Mattel.
Ferreira?
Sorry. Fuck. Barbie Ferreira is the girl from Euphoria, who's great, by the way. Shout out to Barbie Ferreira. America Ferreira.
Honestly, I didn't even know there was a Barbie Ferreira.
Yeah, she's in Euphoria. She's a good actor. She's a good actor.
That's cool.
And America Ferreira makes those drawings of Barbie, right?
Yeah.
And they're sort of troubled drawings, right?
So
and then Barbie, what happens, we learn that, like, we realize that the sort of malaise that Barbie's experiencing in Barbie Land is because this woman's making drawings of her that are sort of like less than a lot, like that are outside of the pleasant experience that she usually has in Barbie Land, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That idea never gets fully teased out. Like, you could do an entire movie just about that. You could do an entire movie wherein Barbie has to figure out who's doing these drawings of me that are making me feel strange, right? Okay. And then at the end you realize it's this woman who works at like, that's a whole movie. But instead it's
And you don't think that was the whole movie?
No.
Okay.
I felt like that idea got, like, lost in the fray of a zillion other ideas that are just peppered into this script, Jackson Pollock style. And, like, I couldn't... It was like this, like, schizophrenic approach to screenwriting that, like, I can never understand and never follow. It's the same problem I have with certain scripts for Marvel movies, the ones I do see.
Okay.
Where I'm like, there's so much going on here, and so little of it actually gets, like, resolved or brought to conclusion.
Yeah.
That I'm left, like, overstimulated and unsatisfied. And I think that is a result of a script that's, to me, felt at best half-baked. And there was, like, potentially a really great movie in there, and I think instead we got, like, a C- script with really great window dressing. Right? Like,
with A+ window dressing?
Sure.
Okay.
B+ to me, but A+ probably to other people, seemingly. I think other people seem to like the way this movie is directed. That's, yeah. I
think the script is better than that, personally.
I was going to go for it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a C-. What I will say is, again, like, are we the spoiler movie podcast? Is that?
We are.
Yeah. Let me think. Plot wise, yeah, I didn't like how they just kind of skipped over. We spoke about this walking out of the theater. It was one of my big revelations about why I felt like I was missing something. The transition in the story from Barbie Dream World to the real world, there wasn't much of a tonal shift for me. It still felt like the same movie. And that might be a directing thing too, but I
guess directing and writing.
Yeah, I really wanted. I sensed that Barbie Dreamland, everything that Barbie and Ken were being marketed as in the trailers, that was all being set up for the inciting incident, maybe the first sequence, first act, whatever amount of that opening of the film you want to identify until they leave Dreamland and they go to, it's Dreamland, right? Not Dream World. Barbie Dreamland, I think.
I thought it was just Barbie Land.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think it's just Barbie Land.
But point is, that opening the film till they go to the real world, I really expected the real world, like, the comedy to change, And then you got Will Ferrell acting like an idiot,
Which we can get to.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, in terms of fish out of water sequence with Margot Robbie and Ken and Ryan Gosling, the way they're written, they're still kind of doing their thing and the world's kind of reacting, but I don't know. It's just like the shift with the contrast between the real world and the dream world just did not feel as strong as it could have been, and I would have liked to see more of that. Dialogue-wise, I actually really enjoy the dialogue in the script. I thought there were so many jokes. Like, in terms of you saying overstimulated, undersatisfied?
Overstimulated and unsatisfied.
Unsatisfied. Jokes, jokes were... I wouldn't say they were overstimulated, because I still felt a little unsatisfied, but not because jokes weren't landing, just because I think there could have been more jokes. Which might sound kind of crazy, because the film is literally a comedy for the entire 2 hours, and it is very funny, but I guess there's just a couple parts in the film where I'm like, why are we serious right now? I feel like we could have a couple jokes here, Yeah. Am I crazy? Yeah. Weren't there a couple parts, maybe towards the middle to the end? I don't know. I felt like...
The movie is not jokes. Like, it's not like, you and I have been watching a lot of comedies recently. You watch certain comedies, really good ones, that are just joke, like from start to finish. And that is not what this movie is.
I feel like in some ways it is. I guess the difference is there's difference between, like, cute, witty jokes, and then, like, straight up, like, that's a ha-ha punchy laugh line,
Well, the movie all of a sudden begins to take itself pretty seriously in the final 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You and I sort of felt like, I think Havey said this too, or maybe Havey said this and I sort of agreed with it. The movie almost doesn't take itself seriously enough. And I don't know, I found that sort of provocative as an idea. I was like, it's almost like the movie in certain ways, I wouldn't say it's almost like, I would say the movie can't decide script-wise what it wants to be. Does it want to be about, and maybe this is again, like, people would say, oh, that's the whole point. Is it's supposed to be complex and multifaceted and yes. But I really think the recipe for a good movie is always that there's just a thread. There's one thread going through the whole thing. Okay. And that's, you wrap everything around that thread. And the movie doesn't pick a main thread. It just doesn't. Unless you disagree, but I mean,
I disagree just in terms of, like, the main thread is Barbie, and I don't mean that to be reductive or just like, they all have cars. I mean like, this blonde character who is experiencing an existential crisis is surrounded by people who are happy with their life, and she's not. And her journey of figuring out why she's not happy, then figuring out there's something she can do about it, then realizing what she thought she can do is not working, and then realizing she needs to, like, do something new in order to get what she wants. Like, I think it's there, but again, that's more talking about plot and shit. I think you talking about comedy maybe that is true. Maybe there isn't like maybe this isn't how comedy works, but there's a part of me that's like most good comedians, in my opinion, they have the thing that they're good at. You know?
Most comedies pick a tone.
Yeah, a specific kind of humor, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing, is this film is, I feel like, predominantly cute, witty, and campy.
Yes.
But at times, it has either like, I don't know, at times, I don't think caustic is the right word, but some of the jokes do land a little harder or sharper than others.
Yeah.
And you can't, I don't know, I don't know. I'm trying to sparse out this idea that there's not a comedic through line in it. Because I don't know. I almost feel like I should watch it again.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Perhaps the answer to that question would warrant a second watch.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say on script before we move on to cinematography?
No, I think we can mention other things as we get along. I mean, if anything, what I will say, which just was kind of like an overall feeling, is the film is like a strong and powerful, exciting take, I think, for like young women in like the realm of modern feminism and trying to help people feel empowered.
Sure.
But I think there's times where like it's really cute and fun the way they poke fun at guys, especially with like Ken's pursuit of the patriarchy, like how guys are basically like riding horses and drinking beer.
Yes.
And there's something really.
And once he realized it wasn't all about horses, he wasn't interested anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny, right? I thought that was funny.
Yeah, there's something so fun about that.
Yeah.
But I think what makes it tough for me is that at the same time, there's a part of me that feels that I don't think there's any really smart guy characters at all in the film,
No.
And so I there's just a part of me that's like, the end of the film does a really good job of saying that like Barbie and Ken don't have to be together to be happy. Barbie's got to do her thing and Ken's got to do his thing.
Why?
But there's a part of me.
It's like my whole
But there's a part of me that's just like,
why is the movie even about fucking Ken? Like, I love Ryan Gosling, but I was like, just make the movie about Barbie. Ken, like, I don't know. Ken Lee. We never see Ken after 10 minutes. To me, it was another fundamental misalignment that, like, I felt with the movie. I was like, if it's about Barbie, just make it about Barbie. I don't care.
Well,
like,
I think what's tough is because the film is revolving around pro-women themes, there's going to be that element of, well, if you're not pro-woman, what are you? You're anti-woman, right? Now, where I'm getting into with that is there's going to be a lot of binaries in the film.
Yeah.
So you can't have Barbie without Ken in this. You can't have the girl side without seeing like the guy side. You can't see separate the good guys from the not good guys.
Sure.
The good girls from the not
following,
good girls.
Yeah, it's sort of basic storytelling. It goes back to basic storytelling.
Right. Like Barbie ultimately cannot be Barbie without the juxtaposition of Barbie. That's what I'm getting at. Now, to be fair, could there have been a stronger juxtaposition? Maybe. I there's a part of me that's like would like to. I mean, the film does end on like a relatively positive, like guys and girls can do well together, But there is a lot of like beating up on each other, I feel like, throughout the film. I don't know.
I just think that the movie could have given itself license to ditch the male element at a certain point. I think it could have. And maybe, like you're saying, like, is there then no conflict? Does that suck conflict out of the movie? And I don't mean have it be just women in the movie and no men, even though like I'd be fine with that too.
But kind of the way that like that Michael Cera character was more of an accessory to the women.
Yeah, I was like, I don't care about this guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm up in the air about that because I actually feel inclined to agree with you. But Greta Noah wrote Ken as such a great character. Like, Ryan Gosling made him so much fun that I can't imagine the film without him.
That's interesting. I maybe.
is such a fun component. So much fun.
Yeah, but then how is the movie going to achieve what it wants to achieve? If Ryan Gosling's in there doing this like really melodramatic, funny thing, like how is that not going to derail sort of the through line of the film?
I mean, the only thing I could think is like that means we'd have to find another way to represent Barbie's conflict. Because Barbie's conflict is she comes to the real world.
Barbie's conflict could be with her maker, right? That could just be it. Barbie's conflict could be with Mattel.
Like, what was I made for? Like the song, like the Billie Eilish song. What am I made for?
But then it begs the question: is Mattel want to make a movie? And this goes back to it being a branded movie. Does Mattel want to make a movie where Barbie's at odds from start to finish with Mattel?
Which might be why they went the Ken route.
Yeah.
Which
makes the movie lame to me and just not as interesting. Because it's not a filmmaker's vision; it's a corporation's vision, and it's
if
just
that's
immediately
true,
less.
If
that's true,
you know,
it makes it less interesting to me. And I think this movie has limits strictly by virtue of it being a branded film.
You know what's interesting about that too, Dale, is I think we're talking about a bigger issue with the film, which is
which we could maybe get into in our lasting impressions kind of thing.
Well, I was just gonna say regarding writing, like what is the film trying to do?
Yeah.
Barbie.
Yeah.
And then asking the question, you know, how does Barbie make choices for herself? How can she survive as a woman in this world? She
doesn't make choice for herself until the very end.
But asking that, like, how can this toy that was made by a corporation finally make a decision for itself? Right?
That's, by the way, awesome. If that was what the movie was...
Which I think it is what it is about.
Dude... No, but like it kind of maybe half like
definitely.
What?
Definitely, it's the height of the climax, the most important like moment in the film.
Yes.
The final moment.
Yes.
Is her making that choice, which I get. I know, you feel the intrinsically
movie could be, that battle from start to just.
And I totally get that. I totally get that. Like it'd be nice to see Barbie
but
rather
that would
than
be a movie for adults.
Maybe.
I mean, this is a movie for kids and adults. It's not a movie for just for kids. It's not a movie just for adults. And again, that makes me misalign with the movie again. I like movies that are either for kids or they're for adults.
You don't like both?
I hate this new blend. It's not new necessarily. There are things that have always done that. But this new trend to like, let's get the kids in the theater and the parents. Sometimes just leave the kids at home. Get a babysitter. Go see a movie that's for adults. And if you want to go to a movie with the kids, you bring the kid. Like
I think you just wanted it to be more for adults.
I wanted it to be more for adults. I wanted it to have more complex adult themes, and it felt like the junior varsity version of what that could have been.
Okay, that's fair.
And
I think that's fair.
I think Greta Gerwig's capable of the varsity version, and so that's why it's just disappointing to me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the last thing I'll say on script. And unless you have anything else to say, we can move on.
What
to
I was trying to get at was with like. I felt that, so you got this film that's revolved around Barbie trying to make decisions for herself, perhaps.
Yeah.
You disagree, fine. But like...
At the end, to be clear, she does make a decision for herself.
Yeah. But it's also competing with like... I'm trying to think. There's like kind of a triad of what's happening. There's like the character's inner conflict. Then there's like... Oof, what does that mean? Who is this?
I don't know.
Exhausting, bro. And then there's, you know, the theme of we'll say feminism at large, but then it gets kind of murky, which you kind of can't avoid because of Mattel, but with consumerism, and that's where like
never gets addressed.
It just gets that's where I'm like, this is relevant because
never gets dealt with in the movie.
That's where it's kind of relevant because like it's a product that's being sold to people. Fine, that's Barbie at its core. But I kind of that's I think a part of the film where like if you were talking about other versions of it, I would almost rather just Barbie be a person who is not a toy. And what does that mean if she doesn't make decisions for herself? That's where like the consumerism I think is just another layer of cleverness. Which, to be fair, if I was writing the film, I would probably try to do the same thing.
Two major things never get dealt with in this movie.
Okay.
the Barbie body image component, which like we don't have enough time to get into. It never really gets dealt with. It's sort of mentioned offhand by America Ferrera's daughter, that character, I forget her name. It's mentioned. She mentions it like, "Oh, you make young women feel like shit." The Barbie body image thing never gets dealt with, and the consumerism aspect never really gets dealt with, and we just don't have enough time to get into that. But those are two things that I was like, those are huge things, and again, that would be an adult movie.
Yeah.
And it's just not. It's a movie for adults and kids, so it's not going to try to deal with those things.
To bring it back to Havey's point, is this film not taking itself seriously enough? I think that's where I get caught up. Is like, as much as I had a good time, and I thought the film does celebrate women, and I think they rib the guys a couple times, and that's also really fun. There is a part of me that wonders, what if it wasn't wrapped in campy, colorful, plasticky wrapping paper, would I be able to walk away feeling a little bit more reflective? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like it's a lot of people complain about how like all the new Marvel films always have jokes that undercut the most emotionally tense part of the films, and like in some ways Barbie kind of does that with its own humor as well.
Yeah. The movie could have, again, to Havey's point, like Havey said somewhat eloquently, is the film almost doesn't take itself seriously enough, and I think that's interesting, and yeah, just food for thought, I suppose.
I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
I don't know what the solution is either, but
cinematography.
We got to talk cinematography. Rodrigo Prieto
okay.
was the DP on this. Do you want to hear some of Rodrigo Prieto's credits?
Go.
He's a real slouch. Brokeback Mountain.
Damn, terrible.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, the worst.
Babel.
The
Inarritu movie. It's really good.
No,
Brad Pitt. Anyway, Argo. Those are just like 4 of his just credits that IMDb sorted. So the guy's
it's like a mountain of awards next to each one of those films.
It's like the guy's a real slouch. He's really terrible.
Wow.
No, Rodrigo Prieto is actually a legend. Do you know what else he shot? I believe he shot. Hold on, I have to confirm this.
Did it
this
say
guy's
Boogie Nights in
legend.
there?
What?
I thought it said Boogie Nights at one point. Don't listen to me.
No, it's not Boogie Nights. He didn't shoot Boogie Nights.
Colin's like, I shot Boogie Nights.
No. I believe Boogie Nights was... I don't want to mess that up. I think it's Mike Ballhouse, but... he shot Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps.
Oh, wow.
Silence, the Martin Scorsese movie.
Mm-hmm. I liked Silence. Super slow.
Bunch of Taylor Swift music videos.
Nice.
Dude, the guy is credentialed, and he's the real deal. And I think that's interesting, but he's really shot a lot of dramas.
Did you like the cinematography?
I did like the cinematography, but I think it's interesting. Clearly sort of a different project for Rodrigo, because really he's done a lot of dramas.
Huh.
It's interesting, though, if the fact that he's credited, he shot some Taylor Swift music videos, makes me feel like that had something to do with him getting this job. Does that sound right to you? Perhaps.
Taylor Swift leading to Barbie.
Like, just shooting Taylor Swift. He shot a bunch of Taylor Swift music videos, and I'm like...
I honestly feel kind of doubtful of that.
Interesting.
Yeah, here's the thing. I believe, call me crazy, that studios, if not producers, if not writer-directors, all probably have a short list of DPs and
Guess
cinematographers.
what this guy shot?
What?
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Shit.
This guy's Rodrigo Prieto is he's the real deal.
So I'm just saying that like they probably have a short list of cinematographers they want to work with, and I think he was on that list regardless of
and
Taylor
the
Swift.
The Irishman too.
Scorsese is on a roll with this.
So
guy.
yeah, I knew Rodrigo Prieto because I know he's Scorsese's guy, but I sometimes forget how many things he's done with Scorsese.
Yeah.
Anyway, I liked the cinematography.
Yeah. I can't speak too articulately on cinematography. What I will say is
I thought it was very sweetened up kind of movie, right? It's like it felt very all the images were very sweet. Very like nice balanced lighting, nothing too high contrast, usually nothing too shadowy unless it's for effect. Bright, saturated.
Do cinematographers have a say about what's in the composition? And before you say yes, like obviously, directors also have a say about where things go.
Yeah, where the camera goes.
But like,
yeah, they totally do. Yeah, that's a huge part of the job.
Like he could, like if they're in a soundstage and he's like, Greta, we can't put the sun in that position, or we can't put the car there in the frame, or we can't. Like he can say shit like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And I think any director would be like, yeah, maybe you're right, or no, I don't think so. This is why.
You know what's interesting? As a cinematographer in a film that's shot at least half in a soundstage, that also means he's probably responsible for a lot of the lighting decisions, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why I'm saying,
guys, the lighting in this film, the way the lighting was treated with the color, that off the bat shows how much of a pro he is, because the amount of set design that went into this. You better light this thing well, otherwise things are not going to pop.
Yeah.
Also, probably, I'm curious if you think he used any filters over the lens at any time. Is that a crazy concept?
I don't know. This would be a great time to have Ben Grant on here.
Yeah.
He'd be able to fill. I'm not sure. It's an interesting question. I thought the movie looked like the way I describe it is it looked like candy. You know, it was like very bright and sweet and colorful, and visually it's really nice.
Yeah,
that's effortless. I don't have that much to say. I'm glad we talked more about the script, because script is one of my biggest issues with this thing. So I would say cinematography is a boost for this movie.
Nice.
Acting. Favorite. Who is acting in this? Is that push it more lock up or cock up or what?
Acting is lock up across the board,
nice.
Always, forever. Margot Robbie's phenomenal. Ryan Gosling's phenomenal. They both do what they need to do to get the film where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling is like a comedic powerhouse who delivers.
Which I didn't expect the extent to which that would be true.
I feel like I've seen him in funny stuff before, so it felt expected in some ways.
What other comedies has he been in?
Well, he did. What's that one with Russell Crowe from 20?
Oh, The Nice Guys.
Nice Guys he did, which was pretty damn funny. He's also
good point.
Crazy Stupid Love. He's really funny in.
Yes.
I'm trying to think if he did any comedies. References. I'm trying to think if he did comedies when he was younger. He's kind of funny in Remember the Titans. He's kind of funny in that.
Okay.
He's got a couple good bits.
But he's capable of it, is the point.
Yeah, he's got comedic chops, and
he
shows them off big time in this film. And
he's very funny.
And Margot is just.
Margot Robbie's a beast. I love Margot Robbie.
Margot is so detailed with her moment-to-moment work. At all times, she is fully engaged and fully reacting to everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Which, to your point, although the character doesn't feel like it's written with strong decision making, that does not mean Margot Robbie has nothing to do. Like the entire film, she is locked into current circumstances and high stakes, and she does a great job. She's really wonderful.
I love Margot Robbie. My issue with this movie is that this character isn't rich enough for the kind of actor that she is. To me, she's like a capital A actor, as I like to say. Like, she is give her the meatiest character you have, and she can probably do it. And to me, this Barbie character is just not, in the writing, is not nearly as interesting as she could be. And I think Margot Robbie is basically being thrown softballs. Yeah. I think this is her doing batting practice. It's she can play, a full speed baseball game. She doesn't have to be in batting practice. This movie felt like acting batting practice for her. And it's just kind of disappointing to me. But yeah, I really like the cast. I love Gosling. I'm a big Gosling fan. I'm a big Gosling fan, and so I love Gosling. I always love Margot Robbie.
Any other noteworthy shout-outs? Do you want to review the cast list?
No, I'm thinking about if I want to say anything bad about, but There's some actors who will remain nameless on this podcast that just sort of phoned it in. We know who we're talking about. And that was a little disappointing, too. They phoned it in or just weren't handed something that was really interesting enough. But nonetheless, acting in this is strong on the basis of just really strong actors being cast in the roles, right? So
I think well cast as well.
Well, I think it's well cast. I don't have much more to say on it,
Great.
to be honest.
We'll leave it at that.
And where are we at? We're at design.
Yeah, even just talking.
Beautifully designed movie.
Yeah.
To give it its due.
People have been going crazy for the Billie Eilish song.
Okay, you're talking sound design too. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think she technically wrote it for the film. I
Nice.
might be wrong.
It's not. It doesn't stand out. It's interesting. It doesn't.
It's the song. I think that it has themes throughout the film, but it is the song that's happening during Barbie's moment at the end of the film.
Got it.
And it's kind of like the showstopper. All is quiet. Take it in. What will she do? And I think it's the moment that, because of Billie's music, it kind of elevated it for a lot of people in the audience.
Cool. I just wasn't paying as much attention to it.
No, I get that. I still thought it was a great song. But I'm trying to think what else is there design-wise. Yeah, we talked about set design. Oh my goodness, the wardrobe.
The set design and wardrobe are really impressive.
Holy shit, yes. Really incredible.
The sets, I will say the sets are really impressive. It's really impressive. It's really impressive they built that on on stages. It's really impressive. It looked right. It felt right. It had the right textures were there. It was like, yeah, this is sort of a plastic predetermined, aesthetically segmented world, right?
Yeah.
It's tranquil and there's a ton of pink, and it's
so much pink apparently
bright.
That there was a pink shortage. Did you hear about this?
No.
Apparently,
oh, that's interesting.
At the height of the film, Greta Gerwig's production team purchased so much of that specific Barbie pink
that they ran out.
There was an international shortage
of the paint.
The paint they bought from that many wholesalers, I guess.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. That there was
probably also intersected with supply chain issues at the time.
Potentially,
but
yeah.
That's interesting. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing is up for some production design
awards.
Oscars.
Oh yeah, it better for sure.
No, I think it's one of the stronger parts of the movie. Anything you want to say on magic? Is there any magic in here that you know?
I think there.
We don't mean that literally, by the way. We're talking movie magic.
I think in terms of the intangible, I do think something kind of takes your breath away about Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling's chemistry.
Yeah.
I do think Greta Gerwig manages to kind of stop the audience in their tracks when they see the world and they see the people in the world. So I do think the magic is in the performance, and I do think the magic is in the design. Sound and visual, but not as much magic for me in perhaps the execution, overall execution.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There are some really damn great things about the film.
I think for me the magic lied in the musical numbers, not the dance numbers. I'm going to separate. Dance numbers were separate to me. I actually didn't love the dance numbers. I did like when there were actual musical numbers.
Okay.
And to me, it made me want the movie to be a musical so badly.
Yeah.
And of course, the movie was not a musical. It was a comedy with some musical numbers in it. But I loved the musical numbers. The one with all the Kens was awesome. And that to me was I was like, oh, there's some magic there, and it's sort of intermittently sprinkled throughout the movie, and beyond that, I wasn't a huge fan. But I've already said that.
I get it.
Any lasting impressions you have of this thing?
I think to bring it back to the cock-up or the lock-up, if you haven't seen Barbie, and you're just listening to all the spoilers for the last hour.
We didn't spoil too much, though.
I don't think so.
We really talked big picture.
I'm a big fan of telling your friends to see it. I don't think it's just like something to throw your money at. I think the film has a lot of value.
Is this movie going to make $1 billion?
It's definitely, because think about international versus, like, 800 is domestic, isn't it?
No, 800's international.
Oh, it is, okay. But still, it's only 2 weeks in, so like
800
holy
domestic
cow.
would be nuts.
It could get there. It could get there.
In like a couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah. So, no, I just think that, if you haven't seen this film, go see it. It's got a lot of, craft and funny and beauty put into it. It's just, you guys are going to have to tell us if you really think it measures up to all the hype that was built up to it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Is Dale is a big cynic of the hype train, and even if I won't admit it, I am too. And boy, was I hyped up for this film, and it didn't quite deliver what I expected. Maybe my expectations should have been different. But lasting impressions is go see it. It is a good time, but it left me wanting more.
I haven't recommended this to anyone, and won't recommend it to anyone. It was a cock up for me. I really didn't like it. I'm concerned about every movie becoming manufactured by a massive corporation. I'm very concerned about that generally, and walking out of this movie makes me think that, and seeing how well the movie's doing, I'm not gonna root against the movie doing well, because I think any movie doing well is cool to me. I like the idea that people are going to the movies, seeing stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm not in any way rooting against the movie doing well commercially at all. I am concerned that we will get to a point where 80% of the theatrical releases are either Marvel or superhero things, so Marvel or DC things, or sort of these
glorified product placement,
product-based movies.
Yeah.
That's concerning to me. It doesn't make me optimistic.
Yeah, I mentioned the other day,
and that's my lasting impression.
Yeah, in regards to that, Colin, just to build on that, I think I texted you on Instagram the other day, this concern for the way jobs left the, labor unions and manufacturing jobs left the country, I think, between the 50s and the 70s.
Yeah.
Maybe a little later. I'm mildly concerned that something is happening where, what used to be, a labor of love that belonged to, true movie lovers.
Sort of a team of artisans and craftsmen and craftsmen and women and...
And I should be more specific. What used to create the genesis of the ideas for these films, I felt like belonged to those people.
Yeah.
Now I feel like we're kind of offshoring the genesis of those ideas.
Yes, it's like, okay, Barbie exists. We're doing a Barbie movie. All right, who can we get? Like that sort of being the top down approach, rather than bottom up.
Yeah,
but,
Dungeons and Dragons. You didn't see it, right?
No, I'm still down to see it though.
I think it was
You really liked it.
It was way better than I thought. I had terrible expectations, and maybe that's part of it. It's like Barbie had high expectations, and I walked up being like, man,
that's definitely
something
part of it.
feels like it's missing.
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons, I didn't have great expectations other than I like Chris Pine.
Like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, it was really fun, smart, clever.
Chris Pine's hilarious.
He is really good.
He's funny.
And so...
And what's her name? Abby... I forget her. She's in Broad City. She's really funny, too. Anyway.
So the sad thing is, if sad is the right way to put it, is there is a future for these product placement films, but they can't, in the same way that, what a scary thought, Colin. Scary thought. Marvel films, they stopped making them. They fall out of love with the general audience, and we finally move on. Westerns came and went. Tarzan movies came and went, early 30s and stuff like that. 90s, Beethoven and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Those movies came and went.
If Marvel movies are still like huge in 10 years, like I'll
But what I'm getting at is Marvel comes and goes,
befuddled.
And then now what? We're just gonna product-based films? Is that what's gonna happen?
It's like that's like dystopian to me, and that's why I can't just like sit idly by and be like, I'm cool with that. If like that's all we're gonna get, like,
we have to keep making original movies. That's it. We just got to keep making.
And that's why
movies.
People like Christopher Nolan, and we're gonna do an Oppenheimer episode. People like Christopher Nolan are important because they get original shit made.
Yeah.
Granted, like Oppenheimer is an adaptation, but nonetheless, it's not even comparable to something like Barbie, right? In the sense that like Barbie's an actual product that's being, it's IP, product-based IP that's being adapted into a film. Totally different from something being adapted from a book. Yeah. This is we're in an interesting time. I still am overall optimistic, but
love the optimism.
But I have concerns, and those are my lasting impressions. And this has been the Movie Addicts podcast.
I'm Gabe.
I'm Dale. Movie Addicts podcast. We will see you next time. We're going to talk Oppenheimer, and it's going to be great.
Nice.
All right, brother.
Bye-bye.
Good one.